So let's go back to Nippon Shiatsu School, and you're working in this center. You're studying in the daytime, and then you're treating in the evening, and gradually, you're becoming a practitioner.
Yeah.
So how long were you at the school? How many years?
Well, it wasn't that long, actually, 3 years, you know.
Mhm.
But then the man from the Philippines came to visit the Nippon Shiatsu School, and then he wanted to have a shiatsu center, kind of shiatsu center in Manila. So he was asking two practitioners come to the Philippines, yeah.
Yeah.
So because I was young, you know, I wanted to have experience in outside Japan, you know.
Yeah.
So I applied, yeah.
Mm.
I want to go, you know.
Yeah.
And then so I had the interview in Hilton Hotel, me and then three other Japanese, you know, colleagues, yeah. And then I was chosen with other men, you know. So we two of us.
Yeah.
Took the boat and then went. And because we didn't speak a word of English, you know, and so the Mr. Namikoshi, eldest son, Toru Namikoshi, he spent 6 years in America beforehand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in Los Angeles, you know, because he went. You know the story, don't you?
I know a little bit about the story, but you can tell the story, Sensei, please.
Yeah, the Marilyn Monroe came to Japan. You know that, yeah?
Yes.
She already married to this famous American baseball player, and I think she had a problem with her stomach upsetting, something like that. But she didn't want to have injections, yeah. So she asked her to have a massage, I suppose, you know. And then someone told the manager of Marilyn Monroe, there is a man, you know, Tokujiro Namikoshi is a very good therapist.
Yeah.
So he came and he stopped the pain, yeah, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
So I think, as I understand, that was one of the reasons why after that manager asked him to come to America, Los Angeles, in Hollywood, yeah, to treat a lot of people. Yeah. And so the Toru Namikoshi, his son, went with him, yeah. And he stayed, Toru Namikoshi stayed 6 years in America. So that's where he learned English. And then when he came back to Japan, he was teaching English at Nippon Shiatsu School, yeah.
Oh.
Anatomical explanations, you know, of which part of the body in muscle in English, yeah. Oh. And then when I went to Philippines with this boat, he wanted to come with us. So he came, he stayed there 1 month. So I stayed with him in the hotel in the beginning, 1 month, you know.
Wow,
and,
that was lucky.
Yeah, he was, in a way, he's very Western oriented mind, you know. He liked to drink whiskey, you know, like a father. He was a very strong drinker, you know. And yes, he explained to us, you know, and he was able to talk to English to other managers and other people. So we listened to him, you know, and then, but after, I think, maybe 3 weeks he stayed and he left. And then, so after that, I stayed with my colleague, you know.
Yeah. And the manager of this center, was it a guy from the Philippines or was it American?
Yeah,
or
the guy, the Philippine, and his father was a medical doctor. And the father had also hotel, Mabuhay Hotel, you know. So they were rich people, yeah. And as I remember, because he had many good connections, you know, the politicians and then, the well-to-do family people, they're all rich. And then so, you know, I treated the people, politicians, vice president, and even several times Imelda Marcos, yeah.
Oh,
Marcos, only several times, yeah. But I never treated President Marcos. He didn't come. But yeah, so they were, you know, so I've seen the real rich people, but so many poor people living all around, you know.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I thought I was lucky to be, you know, only meeting those rich people, and because in a way, he wanted me to stay there, and you know, married to a Philippine woman, but I didn't.
You didn't? What did you do, Sensei?
No, I left after that, you know, after less than 2 years, you know.
You went back to Japan?
Yeah, that's right.
Back to the same treatment center?
No. I started a little bit with new place, you know, in Tokyo, and then my father came to help me to do the treatment several years. But then after that, I had offered to come to Hawaii. Yeah? So I was also in Hawaii.
Oh, tell us about that then.
Yeah, I was doing, you know, in Hawaii, there's a Japanese community.
Yeah, pretty big one, right?
Yeah, so I did the shuttle to the Japanese community people, you know, and also at the same time the American white people, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So, so that was very fine, you know. But yeah, then I stay in a Western way of life, yeah. From time to time, my father came to Hawaii and then did the shuttle with me, you know. But well, my father wanted me to come back to Japan to do the real thing, you know, to do the shuttle in the place, you know, in Tokyo. But yeah, somehow I didn't do that. Yeah. Maybe because you know, I was I don't know how that it somehow I didn't fit into the rigid structure of the Japanese way of life. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, Sensei, because there is an aspect of rigidity in Japanese society.
Yeah. You noticed that yourself?
Yeah, you can't miss it. I mean, I was there for 5 years. As a foreigner, you're a little bit immune because
Yes.
you're outside it. But as a Japanese person, you're inside it. And that's a different story, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So rigidity, like you say, you know, very, when you're like that, you're like that, you know. And this, if you do something else, they think you're crazy or, you know.
Okashi.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you say, foreigners are easily more accepted. He's a gaijin, you know.
Yeah, what the gaijins know. They don't understand.
Yeah, but being the same race, there's no excuse, you know.
Exactly. And there's no escape unless you actually leave the country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how long did you stay in Hawaii, Sensei?
Hawaii, I don't know exactly, but something like 4 or 5 years, something like that. Yeah, I stayed quite time, you know, long time. Yes.
And then were you interested in moving to the mainland, to the USA, or was it somewhere?
No, I stay only Hawaii because there's a huge Japanese community, you know. And interestingly, I didn't like the American food, you know. And in Hawaii, you could eat the Japanese food.
Yeah, very good, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So then what did you do? What was the next step after Hawaii?
Yeah, then, you know, I stay a little bit in England, you know, and then came to France, yeah. I because in France, I had a kinesiotherapist friend, you know,
yeah,
who told me to teach at his school. This man, his name is Mr. Salet, you know, Jean-Michel Salet. He's a physiotherapist, you know, kinesiotherapist, and he had a school, college massage energetic school in Paris, you know. So I was teaching at his school, you know, shiatsu, because he wanted me to. And he, the fact that he wanted me to teach at his school is because he organized, before meeting me, Mr. Namikoshi came to France and it was he who organized the big seminar. He
Mm.
showed me the pictures,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah.
So the father, son, they all came, yeah, to this, you know.
And how did you meet this French gentleman?
Through somebody, I forgot, because in the beginning, when I went to France, it was people who are doing the, you know, what they call that, in America, it's very famous, bioenergy. It's working with emotions, you know, how to.
Yeah.
So,
Bioenergy. Is it from not Rolfing? There's a famous psychologist who died in prison. Is it him you're thinking
yeah.
about? His method? Is it about orgone?
William Reich, I think.
William Reich. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody doing his kind of therapy of taking out all the emotions, yeah. And so actually it was in the beginning, it was this person, Frenchman, who invited me to come to France to do the shiatsu to get rid of that emotional, you know, blockages. And it worked, and he really appreciated it. Then at the same time, he introduced me this Mr. Saret, you know. And then Mr. Saret told me that, yeah, I used to invite Namikoshi, and so I said, yes, I told him I started at the school. So we became very close, you know.
Excellent. Great connections.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like
I just want to tell you that, because the important thing.
Yeah.
Then also 1980, 1980, exactly February of 1980, he wanted me to write a letter to Mr. Matsunaga if he was interested to come to France, so he could organize 5 seminars. So Mr. Matsunaga said yes right away. So I had the opportunity to meet, you know, after so many years at the Charles de Gaulle airport, you know, and with Mr. Saret, you know, inviting, he set up 5 different seminars in different parts of France, Paris, Marseille, Avignon, you know. So I accompanied him. He stayed 1 month, Mr. Matsunaga stayed 1 month. And so I told him that I was his student, I liked his lectures, and he was very, you know, he said, oh, it's nice to meet you, such a different, funny way, you know. And, but then, you know, I noticed something about him that after, you know, each time there were 60, 70, even 100 participants, you know.
Wow.
And after he finished 6 hours, 7 hours seminar, he became exhausted, you know. So he always wanted to stay in his room, you know. He didn't want to come out. So I felt something funny, you know, because then of course I think his cancer was already starting, in my opinion. Yeah.
Was this 1980?
80, yeah. In February he came 1st of February, and he stayed almost in the end of February, yeah. So 1 month, you know. So I moved around with him, and I observed him, you know, because we were, I don't know how many times we were together outside, you know. And even my friend, you know, Jean-Michel took him to a place called the Lido, you know, the Lido, yeah. It's very like Moulin Rouge, Lido, very famous, you know.
Yeah.
And Mr. Matsunaga was the dancing Western way with girlfriend of my friend Saret, you know. I was surprised. He was doing very good dancing, you know. And I asked him, where did you learn this dancing? Oh, he said like that, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting part.
So in between you experiencing him as a teacher at the Nippon Shiatsu School and meeting him in France, how many years were there in between?
Oh, quite a long time, yeah. This is 60, so I was there 64, 65, 66, and then this was 80, so 60, 70, 30 years, 21,
14, 13 years, yeah, something like
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
my question to you is this, Sensei. Did
yeah.
you notice there was any change in his shiatsu practice and style and technique from the time you knew him before to the time he
Yeah.
came to France?
Yes, of course, I didn't notice that. Because when he was teaching at the Nippon Shiatsu School, it was applied Gestalt psychology to practical way of shiatsu. So he was more oriented to psychological aspect, you know. He didn't talk very much about the meridian. But here he's completely into this, when he came to France with meridians, 12 meridians in the arms, 12 meridians in legs, you know. He was very much in, and the abdominal diagnosis. He
Right.
really, I felt that was his thing, you know, abdominal.
Right.
Yeah.
And how about, we'll come back to that in a second, but how about actual technique? Was the technique also different, the kata?
Well, not really, because you know, when he came to France, he did a lot of elbows, yeah, elbows pressure, you know.
Yeah.
But in Japan, I didn't remember that he used the elbows. It's more like hands, you know.
Yeah, so that
But
was a
then,
change, I guess.
yeah, I think he used a lot the elbows and the knees also, doing a lot of knees pressure, you know.
Right. So that was a development that you saw.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
Another thing is that I heard when I saw him in France, he was very tired, you know.
Yeah.
I felt a big difference. In Tokyo, when I attended his class in the beginning, it was very fresh, you know, dynamic, completely different energy,
Yeah. So let's talk about the meridians a little bit, because this is a key aspect of Masanaga's shiatsu, but it's also a controversial aspect. These 12 meridians in the arms, 12 in the legs. Did you talk to him about this? Because it must have been surprising for you as well.
Well, in those days, I didn't ask such questions, you know. But since some years now, I've been asking the question, because, you know, when you look at 12 meridians in arms and legs, you have, you know, in young couple and young in couples, you see.
Yeah.
Like, you know, large intestine forms a couple with the lungs, but also large intestine forms a couple with the stomach, you see.
Absolutely. Yang Ming.
Yeah. So in that sense, it makes sense that 12 meridians you could have in the arms and then legs, you see. So in the Oriental, in acupuncture, they didn't say the way Mr. Masunaga was saying, but to me, it's the same thing.
Okay.
You see? But you know, when I look at the arms, I mean, legs, it's easy to distinguish these 12 meridians, but arms such a small space, you know, it's difficult sometimes, to how could it possible to put the 12 meridians in such tiny, you know?
Yeah.
So that was always my question, and then, but then I, you know, in acupuncture, they didn't have to use the hand or legs, just a needle. So it is easy, you know, to really distinguish each different meridians. And also, I must say, Mr. Masunaga, in his book, he talks about 12 meridians, you know, that some of the meridians in the legs, especially talk about legs, they're very similar to the curious vessels, circulation. You see? So, you know, because, of course, in, you know, the acupuncture text, they mention that in the partly in the what do you call that, the book, you know, even Yellow Emperor mentions it, and also
Nanjing.
the Nanjing, you know, Nangyo in Japanese and Chinese Nanjing. Nangyo text explains there's a chapter talk specifically about curious vessels, you see.
Sure, sure.
But when you talk about acupuncture theory, mainly the 12 meridian theories, you don't talk about the 8 curious vessels, yeah?
Unfortunately, they're a bit shadowy, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
And so, but Mr. Masunaga was very aware of the existence of the 8 curious vessels because he thought without thinking about it, in a clinical sense, he saw the similar thing, you know, the circulation, you see.
So, Sensei, you just said that Masunaga did mention the extraordinary vessels meridians in one of his books. Which book was that?
I think, wait a minute, I think it's called the Shatsu, simply Shatsu, Meridian Shatsu, I think,
Okay.
Kerak Shatsu.
Has this been translated? Has it been translated into English yet? Because I'm not aware of that reference.
Well, you know, the partly Mr. Ohashi, you know, the Zen Shatsu, yeah? The Zen Shatsu is partly taken extract, you know, from this book, yeah?
Yeah.
But the full text from the Meridian Shatsu is different from what you see in Zen Shatsu book, yeah?
That's very interesting, isn't it? So that's just a partial translation then.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know exact story, but I met Pauline Sasaki, who was learning from Mr. Ohashi before he started to learn from Mr. Kishi. Yeah? And Pauline Sasaki, perfect English speaker, and but same time Japanese ancestors, you know.
Yes.
So she's a bilingual, yeah. And I think she helped a lot, Mr. Ohashi, to translate part of the book.
I'm quite sure she did. I'm sure she did most of the work.
Yes, and well, you know, because you know, it was well, I think Zen, well, in a way, it's kind of understandable, Zen Shatsu, because Zen is already in the West, and you know, Shatsu, in a way, yes, Zen and Shatsu, it's a very Eastern way of looking at things. So it makes sense, yeah. So that attracted many people, you know. Instead of saying Meridian Shatsu, Zen Shatsu, you know, Zen. Oh my God, so Shatsu is related to Zen, you know. Yeah.
Clever, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very, yeah. And I don't know how many times Mr. Masunaga went to Mr. Ohashi school, but yeah, you know. So that's how the Shatsu spread in America, and you know.